This is Derek, and he's brand new climber and doesn't think he can finish this route. Like most climbers, he noticed that the route is overhanging and thinks he needs God strength in his fingers along with the ability to do pull-ups. And I don't blame him for thinking that. I've seen tons of strong climbers struggle on routes just like this. What he doesn't know is that there's a technique that takes the weight from his hands and distributes it to his feet. Plus, it helps him stay closer to the wall, which gives him further reach. It's my favorite technique and one that I personally credit to helping me transition to harder routes. It's called the drop knee. Today I'm going to teach him in the ways of the drop knee, and after a week of training, every time he looks at an overhanging route, he's going to have the confidence to try it. If you've been watching since episode 1, you know we've been following my mom Ginger on her 6-week challenge to climb a V3, which is a milestone that proves you are no longer a beginner climber, you're an intermediate climber. Most climbers take months to accomplish this milestone, so 6 weeks is quite the challenge. Unfortunately, Ginger fell and sprained her ankle. Whew. You okay?
Lovely icing on my ankle because I fell wrong. I twisted it as I came down.
She's in good spirits and wants to keep climbing, but the doctor warned her to take 3 to 6 weeks off to prevent further injury, which means she can't finish the challenge. That's where my dad Derek comes in. He saw Ginger's dream of completing the challenge crumble and decided to finish the challenge for her. He's never trained technique and has only been climbing a couple of times since the challenge started. That means he's 3 weeks behind. So we quickly showed him foundational movement along with the rockover and flagging, which you can watch in episode 1 to 3 if you need a refresher. Now it's time to train those drop knees. So what is a drop knee? A drop knee is when you move the hip of your moving hand into the wall while pivoting your toe and thus dropping your knee. On the ground, it looks as simple as kneeling down. There is a little more to it though. One of the benefits of this movement is the amount of tension you get from the move. When you make the move right, your core feels like you're locked into position. To do this technique, however, there are 2 skills that Derek needs to be comfortable with doing first. 1, pivoting from the inside to the outside of your foot, and 2, placing weight on the outside of your foot. Depending on the size of the hold, you may find your weight on the very end of your toes. Luckily, the climbing shoes, especially these Rovers, are rather stiff. They have great support for the pinky toe, and that is something you should consider when learning the technique for the first time. Consider practicing these 2 skills before trying the drop knee for the first time. Since this is Derek's first time doing the move, we're doing it in a more vertical wall and we'll move to a more overhanging wall after he's more comfortable with this one. Step 1. Use footholds that are level with each other and a little wider than shoulder width apart. Step 2. Place your stable hand on the hold that is just below your shoulders in the middle of your 2 footholds. Your other hand, the leading hand, can be placed anywhere your heart desires. It really doesn't matter. Step 3. Initiate the pivot by twisting your hip attached to the lead hand's side into the wall while also pivoting your toes and knee down. You can tweak your knee if you don't properly pivot your foot to where the ankle is pointing up. So for your knee's sake, pivot your foot and ankle while doing this move, not just your hip and knee. When we taught this move to Derek and he tried to implement it on this route, we saw a couple of mistakes that I made myself when I first learned the move, and I've seen countless times from other climbers learning as well. Mistake number 1 is twisting the hips the wrong way. The trick to remembering which way to twist your hips is twofold. Fold 1, whatever hand you are moving, that side is the side that goes into the wall. Fold 2, whatever hand you are using to hold onto the wall should cross in front of your body. Mistake number 2, placing your feet incorrectly. Obviously, you don't always have more than one option for your foot placement, but when you do, it's important to spend the energy on placing your feet correctly. That way you can actually make the move without spending even more energy to do it. The height of your feet and the horizontal alignment are the 2 most common errors I see with foot placement. Derek felt bunched up in a ball, and this is because his feet were too high. When training this move, take the time to test out different height until you start to recognize what works best for your body. Now for horizontal alignment, ideally your foot that is attached to the hip moving into the wall is closer to the target handhold. Derek accidentally placed his feet behind where the target handholds were and thus found it really challenging to make the move. Once Derek addressed these mistakes and practiced the route a few times, he was able to complete it with minimal effort using drop knees.
Nice, right foot up, left foot out, right, nice. Twist, left hip in and left hand up. Nice. Yes. And twist up. Good.
Now that Derek has the movement down, it's time to train the move with my favorite drill of all time that I use probably more than any other drill for my personal training. Before we get to that drill though, there's a one thing you can do right now while at home watching this video to help with drop knees. The exercise is called knee taps. As you can see, you stand next to a wall and practice pivoting your foot, placing your hip against the wall and tapping the ground with your knee. You don't have to go all the way to the ground with your knee, but you do need to tap that hip to the wall. Now for my favorite drill. This is called Overhangs. It's a great drill for all things body position and static climbing. Typically for this drill, you will complete the route by pausing over each handhold for 3 to 5 seconds before gripping the hold. However, we're going to modify it slightly to focus on drop knees. For this version of the drill, you can use whatever footholds you'd like to complete the route, but you have to use drop knees and you have to hover your hand over each hold for 3 to 5 seconds before gripping the hold.
Good. And left foot up on the white hold. Good. Yep. Left foot.
If you find this drill way too easy, then increase the level of intensity by increasing the angle of the route you are using to climb. I recommend repeating this drill a few times until you get used to the movement, then take a rest or even an entire rest day before applying it to the route you're projecting. Okay, remember this route from the very beginning? The one that Derek attempted earlier but didn't think he could do it? Now that he knows the drop knees and is trained a little, let's see if he can. I thought he'd only use 1 or 2 drop knees to finish the route, but he loved how easy the holds felt when he used the drop knees, so he ended up doing the entire route with that technique. Now when he sees an overhang route, he has the confidence to try it, even though he hasn't built up God's strength yet. Drop knees is my favorite technique, but knowing the technique is not enough if you want to climb harder routes. In the next episode, we'll show you how to apply all of these techniques we've been learning over the last few weeks into one climb. It's the bridge to becoming an intermediate climber, so check it out here. If you haven't already watched the first 3 weeks of this challenge, you can start here.